Hello and welcome to Economic Forum, where we discuss different matters affecting our economy in Zimbabwe. My name is John Masugu. Oftentimes when some businesses are growing in an environment, the environment itself is affected, especially in the extractive industries as well as in agriculture. And people forget that generations to come are still going to benefit from that environment. And with that in mind, we've invited an expert in that area, an expert in the area of the green enterprise and development projects, and that's Memory Muchenga. Memory, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Masuku. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yes.
What is this project all about?
The Green Enterprise and Business Development Program aims at promoting any business, but as long as it is observing the environmental issues and the environment surrounding it. And the Green Enterprise and Business Development Program came as a successor project after the Zimbabwe Women's Bureau has implemented an Enterprise and Business Development Program. So after implementation of that program, we then realized, after an evaluation, we then realized that there were some gaps that were identified during the promotion and implementation of various enterprises that were being done by the project participants. Some of the gaps that were identified were such that the businesses that were being done were not observing the environment per se, and also these businesses were just being done haphazardly. And also there were no climate smart techniques that were being done for those that were in the rural setups where they were practicing agro-based interventions. So after the evaluation, it was then realized that it was of paramount importance to make sure that these women and youth that were doing various businesses, that their businesses are made green in a way. So when we are talking of greening their enterprises, we are looking at the issues to do with observing the disposable mechanisms of what they use, and also using resources that do not harm the environment for future generations, and also the inputs that they use to make sure that they are green in a way that they don't harm the environment as well.
But when you got into these communities, didn't they have their own mechanisms, even cultural mechanisms that they were using in order to protect the environment? Were they just destroying and not using some other methods that were preserving the environment?
Oh, it's true, John. When you get into a community, every community have their own indigenous knowledge systems on preserving the environment. But because of the economic situation in our country, people are just having income-generating activities that they were just looking at how they can get money and not looking necessarily on how to preserve the environment. For instance, if you get into a rural community, the chiefs, the villagers, or maybe if I can say the local leadership, have mechanisms on making sure that people conserve the environment. But because people just want to make quick money, they may just ignore and weigh the penalties that they're going to pay after they being summoned by the local leadership, compared to what they'll get after even having an enterprise that just gives them money. So we, as we will be implementing the projects, we make sure that we work with the local leaders just to ensure that the indigenous knowledge systems that they have are also preserved, and also to make sure that they get money out of whatever they are doing, but making sure that the environment is conserved as well.
What you mentioned earlier on is that this project is undertaken by the Zimbabwe Women's Bureau. It's one of the oldest organizations that have been promoting the welfare of women, particularly entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Just tell us how the Bureau works on this program and who else it involves in order to make it a success, particularly around the country.
Okay, like you have mentioned, John, that Zimbabwe Women's Bureau is a very old organization, started in the 1970s, mainly aiming at women. But as we advance in program implementation, we realize that focusing on women alone may not bring the development that we want. So we have tried to rope in women, young women, youths, and men as well. But maybe the proportion and the ratios may vary because of the focus that we have. So in this Green Enterprise and Business Development Program, we have a funding partner that is called We Effect, formerly known as the Swedish Cooperatives Center, that are helping us with the resources to reach out to these women to promote the enterprise that they are doing. We are not implementing this project all alone. It's being implemented in 9 districts across Zimbabwe, but some other 6 districts are being implemented by our sister organization under the Grassroots Women's Network, that is Jekesa Fungwa Volingqondo and Self-Help Development Foundation. They are implementing this similar project in the other 6 districts in Zimbabwe. But as Zimbabwe Women's Peru, we are implementing this Green Enterprise and Business Development Program in Gweru Urban, Goromonzi Rural, and Mutare Rural.
And one critical thing that is always looked at when implementing such projects are the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
Which ones are you really concentrating on?
The Green Enterprise and Business Development Programs, like I highlighted earlier, looks at a lot of components. It looks at enterprises that are on and off farm. If we say on farm and off farm, it means some enterprises are agro-based, some are not agro-based. So you find we're looking at issues to do with agriculture, where we are saying for anyone in the project that is pursuing an enterprise that is agro-based should look at things to do like conservation agriculture that is being promoted by the government. We also look at that. They're also looking at small livestock production, small grains production. Then we're also looking at things like renewable energy. If you look at our sustainable development goals, there's a goal that looks at sustainable energy, use of energy. We're also looking at, like I highlighted earlier, that we focus mainly on women. So you find we're also looking at that sustainable development goals that looks at gender equality. We are also looking, if you also look at the sustainable development goals, there's a goal that looks at climate change. We are also pursuing interventions that have to do with climate smart agriculture. Wow. So in a nutshell, we are cutting across all the 17 SDGs.
Okay, Memory, I'll stop here for a while and we'll come back in the second segment to continue with that. And in today's Economic Forum, I'm discussing with Memory Muchenga, who is a Green Enterprise and Development Specialist. Join us in the second segment. Welcome to the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing the Green Enterprise and Development Program. And our guest today is Memory Muchenga, who is a Green Enterprise and Development Specialist. Just to wind up on the issue that we're discussing in the first segment about SDGs, where you are looking at unsustainable livelihoods, and we'd like to stop that, as well as food insecurity. And you were still mentioning some of the SDGs that you look at, and you had mentioned the climate. You can continue from there, just to wind up that aspect.
Okay, like I highlighted earlier on, John, that the programming of the Green Enterprise and Business Development Program is cutting across all the SDGs. You look at the issues of climate change, they are being covered in this program, where we are promoting the issues to do with agroforestry, forestry, and conservation agriculture. We are also looking at renewable energy, where we are saying we need to be focusing on renewable energy and clean energy sources in implementation of any enterprise or any programming. So if you look at the 17 SDGs, there's also a goal that looks at that as well.
Okay.
Yes.
While you are there, which other departments of government do you work with in order to realize some of these objectives that you want to fulfill?
All right. We're looking at the Ministry of Women Affairs. Like I'm saying, we're focusing on women. So there's no way we can go into communities and start talking to women without the parent ministry. Since the projects some of them are agro-based, we are looking at the Ministry of Agriculture, where we are working with the departments like Agri-Techs, the Livestock Production Department, the Veterinary Services, etc. We also, but the Ministry of SMEs has now been merged with the Ministry of Women Affairs, where they look at cooperatives. As in this project, we're also looking at convening women into groups to form what we call internal savings and lending groups, and also advancing them to be savings and credit cooperatives. So those departments will be working with them as well.
But when everything is said and done, one would ask, what are viable green enterprises? With some examples.
Okay, what we can call a viable green enterprise, it's an enterprise that observes environmental friendly techniques.
While succeeding.
Whatever business that you're talking about, as long as it is focusing and also concentrating on conserving the environment, we call that a green viable enterprise. It becomes viable when you then incorporate the business techniques that are offered by Zimbabwe Women's Bureau through the Start and Improve Your Business that we do. So, for instance, I can give an example of someone who wants to venture into, like these days in the rural communities, there's this expansion of small livestock production where people are concentrating much on traditional chickens, where one wants to have an incubator to multiply these traditional chickens. We are saying instead of using other sources of energy, you can use the solar. Solar has now been used in Zimbabwe like never before. So if you go solar, we are saying your enterprise has been greened.
If you've been doing all this as the Women's Bureau and your partners since 1978, how come capacity always has to be revisited? People don't have capacity, they have to be retrained. Do you think it's because of migration? Do you think it's because of any turnover that's taking place?
Okay, like you see, Zimbabwe Women's Bureau focuses on women. What has been happening over the years is that older women have been participating in this project, and as they grow older, they lose interest in these programs. So what we have done as Zimbabwe Women's Bureau is to rope in the buy-in of the young women who are coming up.
So that there's continuity.
So that there's continuity as well. And also you find when we're talking about enterprises and entrepreneurship, whenever you go back into communities to say, where has your business gone? We have promoted you to do a business ABCD. Where has it gone? One, it has been realized that because maybe they were not observing the environment, maybe what they've been doing is destroyed the environment to an extent that they cannot even continue with that enterprise. Secondly, some of them, because of the harsh economic conditions, they would eat up into the startup capital. So what this program now has brought in is what we call the Green Investment Fund, where we are saying, we know you don't have the capacity to start all over again, but the program will then chip in with 70% of what you want to pursue. Okay. Then you contribute 30% as an individual.
Once again, memory, I will stop you there. And when we come back in the third and final segment of Economic Forum, we shall be looking at some of the areas where you are operating and seeing what changes are taking place as a result of your capacitation in those areas. So join us in the third and final segment of today's Economic Forum. Welcome to the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing matters to do with the green enterprise and Development Program. And memory here has just told me that it's the Green EBDP. But let's go to the areas where you are operating from. You said you also share some other districts of the country, but you are concentrating mainly in Gweru Urban, Goromonzi, and Mutare Rural as the Women's Bureau. Probably you can share some experiences about those areas, how they've been transformed.
The Green Enterprise and Business Development Program is the one that is only concentrating on the 3 districts mentioned: Gweru Urban, Mutare Rural, and Goromonzi Rural. But as Zimbabwe Women's Bureau in general, we are in the 35 districts of Zimbabwe across all the provinces. That's where we do our programming. But just that...
Not necessarily the green one.
Yes. But under the Green Enterprise and Business Development, we've recorded so many success stories where, maybe if I can give an example of Gweru Urban, where there is a family that did not know that just having 3 seedlings can give them an income. So what the Green Enterprise and Business Development Program did was such that they offer trainings to project participants. So one of these days when our officers were giving trainings, there is a man that attended one of the trainings on behalf of his wife.
He was the odd one out.
Yes, he was that's what he says when you ask him about his success story. So he said, I just got interested in this. Then he went around picking up those what we call them, the scud bottles. Then he practiced what was taught. Then he had about 100 seedlings of a certain tree that he promoted. Then he went to forest and said, I now have these seedlings. What do I do with them? Then they said, we have a farmer who needs these seedlings. Then they sold these seedlings on his behalf, and he got around $150 just from picking the scud containers. 1, he has cleaned the environment because people just throw them all over. 2, there was no much input that he had put. And then from that day, he now has a very big nursery. Maybe I can measure it by 20 by 20, where he is now having those seedlings. And that's where he is now promoting the component of agroforestry.
Well, that's an interesting success story. Yes. But you also have other success stories in the other areas that you operate in, like Goromonzi and Mutare Rural.
Yes. Like, for instance, in Mutare, we have a youth that trained. He is a basic training in agriculture. But because he could not get employment, he just participated in the Green Enterprise and Business Development Program. Then he got interested and then he used his knowledge that he got from school
in order to employ himself.
Yes, now he's employing other youth. As we are speaking right now, he has a horticulture plot where he's employing other 5 youth who are getting income from the input from the produce that is getting, and he's also running a parallel project at his father's homestead where he has also employed some other women who are helping him with his chicken production project as well. So you see how we are contributing to the SDGs of creating decent employment. Then in Goromonzi we have a group of women. You know, women, usually they're giving themselves names these days to say, are you a DCC, like Dedi Chakati Chapera? So they are no longer doing that. Yeah. So they came into Chakati Chapera.
Coming from the fact that they only depend on their husbands.
Yes, okay. But now they're also helping with sending children to school, because the income that they were getting from their husband was not enough. Sometimes the children will be sent off from school. So the group in Goromonzi, this group of women in Goromonzi, they just found a horticulture plot where they are now promoting the unusual crops that are not grown by everyone and anyone at any given time. So you find they're having their own market where these crops are needed, and they continuously sell those crops to that precluded market.
Maybe just to, as we're coming to the end of the program, if you could give us the figures that before you started these projects, what was the income per family? And then as these projects grew, you are now looking at an improvement of that income, just to give a motivation to those who may be skeptic about some of these things.
All right. Like I highlighted that the Green Enterprise and Business Development Program is a successor project of the Enterprise and Business Development Program. So the evaluation that was done highlighted that by that time there was an income of around $56 per member per family, but because of the introduction of these green enterprises, we are now looking at $4.50 to $5 per member per family. So it means the income per family is growing, and is growing rapidly because of that, of the implementation of the Green and Enterprise and Business Development Program.
You're also into value chains.
Yes.
Just a few seconds on that.
Value chain, we are looking at the stages of a product from its production stage to the consumer. So we are promoting women to be at any stage of the value chain. Not usually rural women concentrate on the producer stage, but we have trained them to an extent that they can be at any point, even processing, even taking the processed product to selling to the consumer.
So that they harness all the profits
Yes.
there in that whole enterprise.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other projects that are done by the Women's Bureau that support this kind of project? I know they are not all necessarily green.
Yes, we have projects that are running, project that is running in Gwanda and Gokwe, that's called supporting strengthening livelihood options for women and youth. We also have a project that is running in Shavani that is called strengthening livelihood options for women as well. So generally, Zimbabwe Women's Bureau has spread its wings across Zimbabwe just to make sure that women are promoted socially, economically, and financially as well.
And some of these men who have shown interest in some of these programs, like the Gweru gentleman who also came up with some innovations, what have you done with them? Have you embraced them, although the project really belongs to women?
We embrace men, but just that the proportions, we have a bias towards women, but we welcome men because we're saying there is no development when we preach to just one sector. We need to have a wholesome of the community so that we achieve the goals that are intended.
And in doing that, you have a method which you call the study circle. How does it operate?
The study circle methodology is when we have all the participants of the project coming in together. Usually we promote groups of 8 to 16 people where they come together to discuss a certain topic, and they will be sitting in a circle so that there is good communication among them, and they are treated as equal partners in that group, and they discuss a certain matter in that group, and we usually encourage them to study whatever they need to study for about 6 to 8 weeks so that they understand the concept therein.
Okay, Memory, I have to stop you there. A very interesting discussion there that I've just had with you, Memory, on the Green Enterprise and Development Program, which is also implemented by the Zimbabwe Women's Bureau. I'd like to thank you very much for coming to Economic Forum.
Thank you for having me.
That was Memory Muchenga and the program Economic Forum. Until we meet again next time, this is John Masugu.